just received.
The scouting program that you and Sam are doing with Brave Combat Federation, finding the talent wherever you are in the world, it doesn't matter to Brave Combat Federation. You could be in Pakistan, Morocco, or Los Angeles, California. It doesn't matter. We're going to find you. And you and Sam have been incredible in finding the most intense, reasonable, exciting matchups on the planet.
Well, to reinforce your point, the fact that we had Israel Mano fighting on the last card.
Right.
He became a fighter representing the 80th nation.
80.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, my brother, he is a businessman, and he was actually having some business in Burkina Faso. And he was doing the business, he was talking to me, and he was telling me about this country, Burkina Faso, and you know, they speak French, and, you know, giving me information about it. And I was like, I didn't know much about the country. And he was talking about it, and it's like, yeah, I'm planning to travel and stuff. So we had this discussion. And then just like every day we go through this from our Instagrams, or when we meet people and they're like, hey, you know what, I got a fighter, he wants to fight in the promotion. So we go through that. So my brother came in and he said the same thing, you know, he's like, there's a fighter in Burkina Faso, and he's really, really passionate about mixed martial art, and he wants to be a fighter, and he's training every day and night. Doesn't have the resources or anything else, but it is what it is, and he wants to be a fighter. I'm just letting you know, because he knows what I go through. So it's like, I'm just letting you know. I just want to let you know that's happening. And then he repeated that a couple of times. And then I was like, so I can't just take a fighter and make him compete. I mean, what's the background? What's he gone through? And it's like, no, nothing. He's been competing at the national level there. Whatever competition we have in Burkina Faso, he's been competing. There's no gyms, there's no resources, there's no competition that's the highest level. But he believes he can be a fighter. And I was like, if somebody has a dream, come to Bahrain. You know, we can definitely look at and test that. You know, yeah. So he said, and there was a few weeks after, then he came and we were again having a meeting, and he was like, the topic came out of this kid in Burkina Faso, and he's like, yeah, he's okay to come over and stay in Bahrain. I was like, yeah, sure, then let's get him here. And then we brought him to Bahrain. He started training with the KHK team, and I forgot about it. I've been day-to-day work, and then I completely forgot about we ever had this conversation. We bought somebody from Burkina Faso to Bahrain, and then I go to the amateur championship that happened, the national championship under the Federation of Bahrain. So I went there, and then we have our president, Mohammed Gambar. He's like, oh, check this guy out who's fighting at light heavyweight. He's middleweight, but he's fighting at light heavyweight because there's nobody else to fight him. I said, yeah, sure. And I was watching the fight, and I saw the fight. This guy won the fight, impressive. And then I was like, yeah, cool. And then my brother calls and he's like, see what I tell you? I said, what are you talking about? And then he's like, the guy won. I was like, which guy? He's like, the guy who came from Burkina Faso. And I was like, no way. I was like, so he trained, he went through that cycle that we were always talking about. He went through the cycle, he got the amateur opportunity because the National Federation is the ecosystem that we're creating. So the National Federation continues to do the event, and there's no way you will not get competition to prove yourself, and you will be able to prove yourself because that is a scouting location for us. And that happened. And again, we've had 3 events in Bahrain. So 19th we had an event, 22nd we had a Brave event, and now we're going to have 28th. So between 19th and 22nd, 21st we had another amateur championship under the federation, and he was supposed to fight for the second time there, or God knows how many times, but he was supposed to fight again on 21st. And then we lost a fight. We lost a fight on 22nd, I think, right? Yeah, 22nd we lost a fight, and then we're like, you know what? Let's give another amateur an opportunity. Let's see, you know, we'll leave it to the federation president to pick who's the guy who deserves to be at the Brave stage and showcase talent.
That in and of itself is huge for an amateur.
Right.
I don't think enough people realize the magnitude of that, great word, the magnitude of that.
Right.
For an amateur fighter to compete on a global platform like Brave Combat Federation, no other organization in the world is doing that. So I just want to give you props for allowing the amateurs to do that and give them that global platform.
No, always. It is a system that we have to create. But that was interesting for me to, like, again, it just happened. And that's, in the end of the day, you don't have to make anything happen anymore, because ultimately the system, the ecosystem will do things by itself. I mean, we always say that why we change it from an event business to sports business and mixed martial art is that I don't want to be the one making decisions. I don't want to be the one that's saying that, okay, if I'm going to make his dream happen or not, I should not be making that decision. And it should be the system, the sports ecosystem that should be naturally going through that process, and anyone who has a dream will be able to achieve that, and the system allows it. And that's what happened exactly here. I mean, none of this was planned. We didn't think about this. We didn't think about the story at that time, but it happened, and he's fighting there. And then we had our PR team. They came and they're like, "Oh, that's the 80th country." I had no idea, you know. Right. Now I know, you know, but it wasn't for that. It wasn't planned. And just like how it wasn't planned when he fought the fight. And we thought of putting that live on YouTube, and then you instantly see his fight, and nobody comes into amateur fights so much, but when his fight started, boom, 3,000, it just popped up. And I was like, what's going on, you know? And then we checked, all 3,000 or 4,000 from Burkina Faso just came in, spiked immediately. And then then I was just looking, I was like, that's at least 500 kids that's going to look at that and think, I can do it too. Right. So it's worth believing in that dream, you know. And they were watching it, you know. So that's a little satisfying, definitely.
It's great how there's so many Rocky Balboa stories within Brave, and you talk about an organization that truly gives back. A family of fighters, 4 fighters. I mean, Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, I call him a dream maker and a life changer. Yeah. And it's totally true. He has changed more lives than anyone I've ever met in my life. Yep. It's unbelievable what he's done. And with you as president, I mean, you talk about a force that is out there for the passion of the sport. Like you said at Brave 1, when I said the Kingdom of Bahrain is taking over the MMA world, man, people were like hitting me up going, what's the Kingdom of Bahrain? What are you talking about? I'm like, just watch and see. Yeah. And you got interviewed and said, we're here to make a footprint on mixed martial arts globally. They're like, what about ticket sales? What about merchandise? Let me repeat myself. We're here to make an imprint on mixed martial arts globally. And wow, not only an imprint, I mean, we've slammed the door open and came in, and it's great that it's taking off in so many countries. And let me add, along with 80 countries that we've had fighters represent, we've set a record by going into 28 different nations, breaking a world record. I mean, only in 6 years. So just the storyline keeps getting better and better, but the true winners are Brave Nation and our incredible fighters that we have.
I want to jump in for just a sec. Anybody watching this, people hear things like what Los just talked about, and some people need it to be personified in order to understand it. So I just want to throw out 150 people on the roster. I just want to throw out one name, Nkosi the Future Ndebele. He grew up in a township in South Africa. In Europe, people talk about poverty. United States, people talk about poverty. In the township, you don't have electricity, you don't have running water. You have a wall and a roof made out of tin. If you don't have tin is like a nice place. You do it out of cardboard or pieces of wood that you can find. That's his background, raised by his mother. Now the guy's got a car, he's got a nice apartment, he's famous, he's got a thriving business as a personal trainer, and of course he's getting his show and his win money from Brave Combat Federation. So when people hear Carlos, it may sound theoretical to them, but there is nothing theoretical whatsoever about what Brave Combat Federation is doing. One fighter at a time, one fan at a time. It is absolutely changing lives.
We talk about the storylines, and we talk about the narratives we find within the sport. One of the most intriguing narratives for me is that of the redemption of Hussein Ayad on this card. Yes. Almost 3 years ago, this young man went into a fight and suffered a horrific injury, a horrific leg break. I was sitting cage side watching it, and I have never heard the arena was sold out, but you could have heard a pin drop as soon as that happened. You heard that break. It was chilling. It was genuinely chilling. Now for him to make his comeback to Brave in the exact same arena where that horrific injury happened and have that opportunity at redemption, that for me is inspiring.
You think he would have that back of his head, something, you know?
We were talking a little bit about that earlier. when you get your leg, brutally injured like that,
Yeah.
you're going to have little flashbacks when you're ready to throw that kick again.
Yeah.
But he is solid. He's come back stronger than ever. Had another great training camp with KHK Team Bahrain,
Yeah.
and he is ready.
No, yeah, but I'm always thinking about that because I've fractured my leg. I've had a major fracture, and I took a lot of time, to throw a kick, and especially it's like you start feeling a little more pain than the left shin over your right shin because your right shin got fractured and you just start being a little more sensitive. I don't know if that's going to affect Hussein. I mean, but more of the atmosphere that this is where it happened, this is how it happened, and that memory comes back in.
But it's also a wonderful opportunity for catharsis
Yeah.
for Hussein Ayad. It's a wonderful opportunity for him to exercise the demons, to exercise the ghosts of Brave 29, to go in there and essentially do something that not a lot of fighters have the opportunity to do. And it comes back to that word again, redemption. Where is that going to sit? If he goes in there and puts on the type of performance we know he can, what will that do for his mindset moving forward? This could be Hussein Ayad version 2.0, the regenesis, the rebirth of his career, and I'm so excited for him.
No, definitely. No, definitely. When you look at this fight card, it's just crazy. I mean, like you're seeing a fight card. It was just like it was properly set up, and then you have this fight card, and you have Hamza fighting the main event, and you have Izzuddin and Shorty fighting the co-main event, and then you're looking at Ahmed Amora, who's fighting Hamza in the main event, and he has his own story of a guy who's earned his rights to be at the main event. I mean, you always hear the president of Colombian MMA Federation, and he keeps saying that nothing was handed to him, and they feel like this is a kid that had to really snatch whatever he wanted, so he didn't get the opportunity that he wanted. I mean, we had Brave event in Colombia. He never got the opportunity to fight there, but he had to. They were like, no, you're not going to get the chance. And I'm just keeping on winning in Colombian MMA Federation, MMA circuit. And they're like, yeah, but unfortunately, you don't get the opportunity this time. And then we did the road to Brave there. So you had the national tryouts, national events, and then they kept competing, and he just started winning. And it's like, what now? Not yet. And then we're like, okay, we do Road to Brave. And then he won Road to Brave. And it's like, oh yeah, now do I get a contract? We'll wait. And then, and then he won the fight. He did get the contract, but he didn't get to fight in Brave until Brave was coming to Colombia again. And then he was like, what about now? I was like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. We'll give you a shot. And it's definitely in that position where he's fought in Colombia, and he was like, okay, now the pressure is there. I mean, when you've been fighting for something for so long, to get something for all his life, and then you get it, but it happens to be at the bigger stage in your home country, your family and friends and everybody else watching, and they're like, you better do it, so that's a pressure in itself. I mean, and he came in and he showed that, what, I deserve to be here, I deserve to be here and I deserve this opportunity. And that's what he comes in, and I've spoken to him a couple of times and discussed about, we want to really know what's the ambition of the fighter. You can't be a fighter if you don't want to be a champion.
What are you fighting for?
100%. And Eduardo is in that phase where he's like, he looks at Hamza, and shockingly, everybody feels a lot about that with Hamza, but he looks at Hamza and he's like, if I was in a different country, that's what it would be for my life, and here I had to earn for, fight for everything that I wanted. And he did, and he had the opportunity, and he got the opportunity, and now he feels like, I don't know who said that before, but he's like one of those guys who's saying that Hamza has everything that I should be having. Nate Diaz, right? Yeah. What was that he said?
Conor McGregor, you're taking everything I work for, MF.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So he feels that way about Hamza. But on the other hand, Hamza is a guy who's been 10 years.
You saw him from scratch. I mean,
yeah.
As a little bit overweight, just came in to train a little bit,
special,
right? Get in shape.
A lot of these boys, I mean, this is what's beauty about mixed martial art and what's beauty about Brave Combat Federation. When you look at these fighters from these regions, and you look at them and you're like, what's the background? I mean, you can't be the greatest fighter. You're not the greatest fighter because you never got the opportunity. But it doesn't matter. You're training in Jordan, you're training in Bahrain, you're training in Colombia, you're training in Argentina. It doesn't matter. It's all about the character. Definitely, there's a lot of improvement you could have having a better team and coaches and everything else, 100%. But those coaches, those teams, none of that is going to ever change a fighter's mentality. If you don't have that in the first place, there's no point about having the greatest facility, the greatest infrastructure, the greatest coaches. None of that is going to change you as a fighter and make you a champion. But the foundation is to have that fighter's mentality. And I think that's what these guys have. And you see them training with a smaller gym or a great gym, but still going and performing because they have the fighter's mentality. So, but then, that's what I'm talking. We're talking about an interesting story with Hamza and Ahmed Amora at the main event, and then it just blows up when you have a fight like Shorty and Izzuddin, and then you realize that, oh, wait, hold on. You look at the main event and co-main event. There's a story there. What's happening there with Izzuddin and Hamza Kohiji? And that's the bigger story in the Middle Eastern MMA community. But and it's funny that when you have a fight card like this, you always miss out on a lot of fights, and you always sit back and look. But you know what? The fans fight for the fans. Is actually going to be Ahmed Labban and Carl Booth. For me, personally,
just going to say as well.
That's what it's going to be.
That would be a main event on any other card, right? These two guys are
100%.
absolute
100%.
insane strikers. It's going to be amazing.
It's good relation, right? Like if you look at Carl Booth, he knew Brave from day one. Like
yes.
He's been there from the inception of Brave. And then you look at Ahmed Labban, and he's been more consistent recently. Mm-hmm. And he's been there, and he's the guy who's, like I say, he's more oiled right now, and he's in that flow, you know. And so Carl Booth is back, and he still feels like he got to prove that. But Ahmed Labban is an amazing striker. Carl Booth is an amazing striker.
So exciting.
But different though. Crazy, but different.
Exactly that. It's exactly that. And that's why, Brave Nation, that's why, stylistically, this is the fight I want to see. This is the fight I am most excited about it. Because in Carl Booth, you have a guy that throws bombs and nothing but bombs. It's all he knows. He pops a jab out, and his toenails are behind it. He's got everything behind it. In Laban, you've got somebody who, I don't want to sound pejorative, but I think he's a more sophisticated striker. He is to me. He mixes up lighter shots and harder shots. He looks for angles a little bit more.
You know what's going to make a difference?
Hit me.
I think when you are in the taekwondo stance, you're always going to be a victim of those low kicks. And he's going to have his legs swinging with those low kicks of Carl Booth. I have a feeling that low kicks are going to make the difference because you see his stance, and it's in one line, right? And it's always in and out. Definitely. So I don't care about the reach because Carl Booth has I feel like Carl Booth is having more reach. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he has more reach.
Well, for sure.
But he looks like he has more reach than Ahmed Labban. But I'm not worried about that because Ahmed Labban goes in and out. He's not a guy who needs to walk in and slip and move in and find a way. No, he's in and out. So he's going to hit you and go back. In and out, in and out. But so the reach is not the biggest trouble. But I think the difference is going to be the stance of Ahmed Labban and the low kicks that Carl Booth is going to throw. And I think that, you're going to see some red hamstrings.
Kirik, I'm going to politely disagree with you. And it's very rare I do this because your opinion means the world to me. But you said Laban was potentially the more sophisticated striker. Was that the word you used? Okay, it's a great take, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. For me, I think Carl Booth is the cleaner striker. I would say with regards to his striking and his shot selection, he is the more sophisticated, cleaner striker. I firmly believe Ahmed Labban is the more dynamic striker, and it's very easy to get dynamism mixed up with sophistication with regards to the striking. I think he throws a lot more crowd-friendly style attacks, these spinning kicks, these flashy back fists. But Carl Booth, when it comes to proficiency, is a head-hunting, laser-focused type striker.
Do you feel like Carl Booth is more predictable than Ahmed Labban? I feel like Ahmed Labban
Yes, I'd say we know what Carl's going to do. We know what
Yeah.
Carl's going to do, but he gets it done by virtue of the fact he's so good at it.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Ronda Rousey armbar back in the day. You knew it was coming, you knew it was going to happen, but how did you stop it? Carl Booth, for me, when he is on, is one of the most dangerous in the world.
And Carl Booth definitely wants to show Brave Nation how he's grown and that he is a legitimate superstar as well. He moved to the Middle East about a year ago. I mean, he's been training constantly, sharing his expertise with others, but he has grown. Both of these guys, it's going to be an amazing matchup.
No, definitely. Yeah, but that's always been something that we look at Ahmed Labban. and he's always had to prove himself, right? He's always had to prove himself because you see the way he fights, the style, his style of fighting, and every time you look at him, you're like, okay, it looks a little weird, you know? I mean, it's the movement that he has, the punches, the kicks that he throws, and then you look at it and you're like, every time the opponent gets caught, you know? I mean, you're like, what's going on, you know? I mean, like, it's one of the most uncomfortable styles to fight. I feel like it's one of the most uncomfortable styles to fight, and that the movement, that in-out movement, and you know, you gotta literally chase him to get him to stop, you know, and that's interesting because the energy that you need to have to keep moving in and out and get that, you know, that kind of it takes a lot of energy to fight that way, you know, and that's something I think that it is definitely going to be a striking clinic.
Another interesting wrinkle of that fight for me is the fact that Carl has spent the majority of this camp at KHK.
You think a takedown is coming?
I don't know, but I think now that
takedown's coming.
Now that he's that, it would be shocking. It would be surprising to Laban. Yeah. But because he now has that in his locker, you know, that's another tool in the game. That's another tool in his arsenal. I think that by virtue of the fact he's expanded upon what he already has, makes him even more dangerous.
But how long has he been training with KHK?
This camp. 1 month. 1 month.
You think 1 month makes a big difference?
When you have somebody like Eldar Eldarov who can fine-tune these little pieces of your game, I think, yes, it could make a difference.
10 days goes in weight, you know, preparing for your getting on the right weight. And then you're left for 20 days.
20 days, if you're a sponge, you can absorb some information from someone like Eldar Eldarov.
I'll tell you what I'm certain of.
Very true. Yeah.
Striking offense and defense and wrestling offense and defense are almost the exact opposite. You can learn to strike pretty readily. Learning how to defend against strikes is really, really hard. You can learn to defend against takedowns really readily. Learning how to set up a takedown, how to get in the hips is really, really hard. Can he get great takedowns in not 30 days, but 20 days? Maybe, maybe not. But can he not will he learn to not get taken down? Absolutely. At the very least, we know as a fact that gentleman is going to stay on his feet.
Very good point. And Ahmed Labban, I mean, for me, he's the closest thing to seeing what like Bruce Lee would be in the cage.
Yeah.
Right? He is
exactly.
Incredible. And his kicks, in his punches and his angles, and even when they miss, the crowd's like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You hear him and Ha. It's like, where did this guy come from, right? He is such a dynamic striker in the whole package.
And I still can't think about, like, if I ask you, like, tell me what Ahmed Labban is going to do in a fight. Like, what's going to be his strategy?
I don't think he knows. And if he doesn't know, how are we meant to know? But again, it comes back to just how dynamic a striker. And some people express themselves through poetry. Some people express themselves through music, motion pictures, acting. He expresses himself by his striking. And you can see just the mastery that he has there and how much fun he has with it as well. If Carl Booth is angry and aggressive, Ahmed Labban is borderline playful in the way he approaches striking. So again, that's a really cool, fun dynamic for me.
No, definitely. And see, Carl Booth is not new to fighting in Brave or fighting at big shows of Brave or fighting strikers. I mean, he has fought strikers with faster hands before, you know. I mean, it's just Carl Booth. I think the fight IQ that he has when it comes to striking definitely is a different level, you know. And I think that's what makes this fight interesting. If you had to bet, who's going to go for the first takedown?
Neither of them.
I'll be the best.
I think Booth.
I
We'll go for the first takedown. I think so.
The KHK.
Yeah, and that's to a great point. The KHK Team Bahrain camp is huge. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, just to see the growth of KHK Team Bahrain has been amazing. And all of the brave fighters that are welcomed in with open arms is really amazing as well. And they have that unique opportunity that no one else in the world really has.
And Booth doesn't need to score the takedown. He just needs to threaten with it, so that Laban knows that it's an element. So it's an element of the game. We're not going to say like, oh, he's tried for the takedown and he hasn't got it. Yeah. He puts that little bit of a tick in the mind of Laban that this is a potential thing that he now needs to think about.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this is it's an interesting fight.
Fight of the night written all over it. You know, this is like, if you're looking at it on paper, this is fight of the night written all over it.
Yeah.